All right, that may help if I unmute myself. Happy marvelous Monday, everybody. I hope that you all are well. Hope that your weekend was great, was phenomenal. Hope that you are enjoying the weather. If you are in the part of the country where the weather is nice and it's warm outside, the birds are chirping, and it's an indication that spring has arrived. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Karissa Span, the landlord and tenant coach. This is what I do each and every Monday right here on my Facebook and my YouTube channel. I share information that helps landlords as well as tenants. And so today we're talking about a situation that recently happened. A landlord who failed to make repairs, and the tenants, they ended up getting frustrated and they took actions into their own hands. This happens so frequently. So the information that I share today is to help somebody. So whether it's for you or for someone that you know, this information is so applicable. It's so relevant for the times that we are currently living. So this information is for landlords, it's for tenants, it's for real estate investors, it's for property managers, it's for people who have slum landlords and just want to share information with your landlord. You'll find a lot of information here today. And so please don't be a stranger. If you have questions, if you have comments, go ahead and drop it in the comment box. I will respond to them accordingly. I won't hold you long. I typically will go not more than 30 minutes, and I certainly want to make sure that I'm including your input. And so please let me know if you are tuning in or watching for the very first time. Let me know where you are watching from, because I love to know where my viewers are tuned in from. All right, so I'm going to get into the discussion. But again, if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment box. If something that I share today, if you find it helpful, go ahead and share it with somebody else, because sharing is caring. Like my Facebook page, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. As I upload weekly videos, you'll be the first to get that notification. So again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So I just wanted to get that in the way. All right. Don't be a stranger. All right. Give me hearts, give me loves if you like it. And if you don't, that's quite all right. I'm still going to share the information, because I'm just God thankful that He created me to share this information. And at the end of the day, it costs you absolutely nothing to show up to get this information. All right. So the story that I'm talking about today, it actually happened. I received a text message. I'm sure that many of you have had the opportunity to see the picture that I posted. All right. So I'm going to bring it back up on the screen in a few more seconds. Just waiting on a few people to log on. I'm going to bring the picture back on the screen. This incident happened in the DC metropolitan area. And this is a live situation that is currently going on. And just by way of announcements, all right, those of you who have been watching last week, I got the question, I received some emails about the eviction moratorium, and people are concerned or wanted to know if it was going to be extended. Well, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, did extend the eviction moratorium till June 30th. So it was scheduled to expire March 31st. And so because it's been extended to June 30th, that means that there's more protection for tenants. So if you or someone you know should happen to be a tenant, having some sort of financial difficulty paying rent, you have a little more time to try to get resources to pay that rent. But rent is still due. So let me just definitely say that. This is not a pass to not pay your rent. This is, this is not the get out of jail free card where you just get to not pay the landlord and nothing happens. Well, there's going to be a storm of evictions for people who have not paid rent, unfortunately, and don't have the ability to come up with the money to pay it. So reach out to your local government, your local authority, to see where money is, because money is available. And so because the eviction moratorium has been extended, there's a lot more money that they're pouring into communities to help landlords and tenants, because tenants are not just impacted alone. Landlords are impacted when tenants don't pay rent, because it is a business. And I know sometimes that a lot of tenants may not understand that some of these landlords, they live from month to month, they really do depend on the rent money to make mortgage payments or to pay contractors or to pay for repairs or utilities. So there's a lot involved with being a rental property owner, a real estate investor. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront of some of your minds for those of you who are not aware that landlords are suffering as well. I think about a week or two ago, I shared how a landlord became homeless because she could not afford to pay the mortgage and rent for her. So here it is. She has, I believe, in her property, I think it was like a duplex or something like that. It was 2 units. She was renting one out and was expecting the tenant to move. Well, the tenant decided, well, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, I'm not moving. So, and not only am I not moving, but I don't have the money to pay the rent. And so that really created a financial hardship for that landlord. And my heart goes out to people who are impacted, landlords, tenants as well, because it's sometimes a challenging situation to have bills. You know that the rent is due, you know that you have to pay bills, but you don't know where you're going to get the money from to pay the bills. And so, I've been down that road before. I've had a couple of bumps on the road. I had a couple of roller coaster rides in life, up, down. And, I can definitely relate firsthand to being in a situation and not know how you're going to take care of your family and how you're going to make ends meet. But here's the one thing that I do know, that tough times don't last always, but tough people do. And the storms in life, they may come, but they won't take us out. So if you're in a situation, if you know someone who's in a situation, I encourage you and encourage them to just hold on. Don't give up. Don't get frustrated, because whether you get frustrated, you get stressed out, you get depressed, none of that is going to change the situation. So don't even worry about it. All right. So we're going to get into the discussion, but I want to see the comments that are coming in. Hello, Jennifer. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Kimberly. Thank you for tuning in from South Carolina. Sade is tuning in from Louisiana. Hello, Reverend Dr. Michelle Woodard. Thank you so much for tuning in, beautiful. And hello to you, Andrea. Thank you so much, beautiful. So good to see you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so today, we're going to get into the discussion. But before I do, I'm going to bring the picture back on the screen, because I want you to see the impact that landlords have on tenants when they don't make repairs. Many of you already know, you've been watching me, you've been following me for a while. The one thing that I strongly, strongly, strongly dislike more than anything, I don't even want to say hate, because hate is a strong word, but it's along the lines of hate. But I strongly, strongly dislike a slum landlord. For whatever reason, makes, I cannot, I can't come up with anything that would justify why a landlord won't make repairs. Listen, I've been in the industry in property management for well over 28 years. So from managing property to being a real estate agent to being a housing inspector, I teach property management at one of the local universities. I teach people how to manage property. This is what I do. I have a passion and I have a heart for it. I believe solely on the philosophy that if you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. Well, here it is. This landlord, who I do know, by the way, for whatever reason, did not make repairs. And there are a lot of things that's going on at the rental property. And it just causes me to scratch my head to really question, how could anybody sleep well at night knowing that they've not provided a service to their tenants? As a person, not as a landlord, but just as a person, as a human being, to not have a heart for the people that we're serving, right? Because I have tenants, I manage property, and tenants keeps us in business, because bricks and mortar don't pay rent. Tenants do. And even if tenants are not paying their own rent, even if the tenants are receiving some sort of government assistance, that's still money coming in. That's still money in the bank. So why a person would not take care of repairs is beyond me. So let me bring the picture back up on the screen so that we can all see and share in the same thing. All right. All right. So here's your picture. All right, I wanted to bring that back on the screen because it's important to understand what's going on here. These tenants are obviously concerned that this landlord has not made repairs. I'm not sure if they are refusing to make repairs for whatever reason, but that's embarrassing because if you notice, that was at least an office, and so um, that's an issue. So we have repairs are not being made. There's a situation or something going on with the stairs, maybe some sort of hazard. I don't know because I'm not the landlord. There is on the sign on the door, it said mold. It says something about mold. Um, Let me just pause on that because there are obviously maintenance issues, um, health issues with mold. That's an environmental hazard. So you can't have mold in tenants' homes, right? Um, Safety issues with the steps. There was a sign on the door that said recertified now. So that lets me know that these tenants are in some sort of housing subsidy program and they have to recertify in order to remain in the program so that the government can continue to make payments on their behalf. Well, that's not being done. Repairs are not being done. Tenants are not being recertified for whatever reason. And so it's a big old mess. But see, here's the thing. Because this is what I do, this is what I've done for so long, and I'm passionate about doing this. It bothers me because not just one tenant, but families are impacted. Okay, and so I'm sure that this group of tenants, tenants who have complained, they've probably reached out to get legal help, um, to have an attorney to get involved, and this landlord could save a lot of money if they just simply make repairs. Um, and I know, Samara, I get it. It really is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for this landlord because I know this landlord, right? I'm embarrassed for them, but unfortunately, it happens, which is why I share this information, hoping that people would have a heart for what they do, right? You can't manage property and not take care of it. You can't manage property and not take care of repairs. All right, so I'm just going to share some tips. I don't want to ramble on too much, but I want to share some information today that I believe will be helpful because it is so important for people to understand the dynamics of having a rental property business. So whether it's the property manager, the owner, there are a combination of things that makes the business a success. So this is my first tip. I'm going to share 3 tips. The first thing that you want to do as a rental property manager, an owner, a housing provider, whatever capacity you're working in, the one thing that you want to do is listen because tenants will complain. People will have complaints. All right. And so I've had a situation I've experienced firsthand. I didn't have the situation personally, um, but I've experienced firsthand where tenants complain to their landlords that repairs are needed and the landlord did absolutely nothing. Right. I witnessed firsthand a tenant telling the landlord that they had mold in their rental property, the place that tenant called home. The landlord never came out. The landlord never paid for mold or environmental hazard testing to be done in their rental property. But guess what the landlord did? The landlord told the tenant that it was the tenant's responsibility to clean up the dirt. Now, wait a minute. Hold up, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord. If you've not had the place inspected, why insult the tenant by telling the tenant that the mold complaint that they just made is the tenant's responsibility and called it dirt? So that landlord was negligent. So you definitely, as a landlord, want to listen to the complaints. So if you are a tenant, please hear me and hear me well on this. If you have a landlord who, for whatever reason, is not making repairs or doesn't seem to be concerned, please document it. So if you contact them by phone, please follow up in writing. Send that landlord something in writing because it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And when you create a paper trail at the appointed time, okay, because in many jurisdictions, the courts are not open. But in some jurisdictions, landlords are being taken to court. Tenants are being taken to court for lease violations. Now, let me just say that although the courts are not open at this time, that tenants can still contact their local authority, whether it's the inspections department, whether it's the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, the Department of Housing and Community Development, the commission, whatever agency is in place. There are still workers who will respond to complaints for inspections. All right. So I just wanted to put that out there. Hello, Barbara. Thank you so much for tuning in today, big sis. I do appreciate you. All right. So we definitely want to make sure that landlords understand the importance of listening, right? Here's why that's important. Because when you hear the complaint, when you hear the concern, and you're actually listening to what's being said, that gives you an advantage to take a look at whatever the issue is, take the time to make sure the repairs are completed. Because although we're still under the eviction moratorium, which has been extended to June 30th, landlords, housing providers are still responsible for making repairs. I received so many emails. Landlords complain, well, Karissa, if my tenant is not paying me, where am I supposed to get this money from? I wish I could wave a magic wand and make $1 trillion appear in your bank accounts. It's not going to happen. Okay. It's just not going to happen. So take time to listen to your tenants when those issues come up, because issues will come up. It's just a matter of when. It's not if, it's when, because over a period of time, I promise you that pipes will break. Toilets might get clogged up. Garbage disposals might start leaking or backing up. Doors are going to come off the hinges. Faucets are going to run. Toilets are going to overflow. Showers may leak, and there's a whole host of things that go on in the rental property. So it doesn't matter if it's an apartment, if it's a condo, or if it's a house. Heck, it could be a trailer park. Things will happen. Things break down over time. That's natural. That's normal. All right. So my second tip is, when it comes to listening as a landlord or a housing provider, make sure that you are showing your tenants that you value them by making repairs, especially if you are collecting rent, because some landlords have not been financially impacted because of the pandemic. Some tenants are in programs that pay their rent each month, which means that that landlord is receiving money each and every month, has not missed a beat. So value your tenants, okay? If you're a tenant and you feel like your landlord is not respecting you, I promise you that when that lease is up, there are other rental properties that you can rent, all right? So as a tenant, I would never want anybody to live somewhere where that landlord does not value them. It's not cool. It's a business. You're not there to like each other, but you're still there to respect each other. Tenants have an obligation to abide by the terms of that rental lease agreement, to pay their rent if they have a portion to pay, to take care of the rental property, to abide by the rules and the regulations of that rental lease agreement. It's not a relationship. It's not a marriage. It's not a partnership, right? It's a landlord and tenant relationship. There's a contractual agreement. Now, let me just say that it should be a contract in place. I do know that some landlords, for whatever reason, rent property with no lease in place, that they obviously haven't listened to me tell them that if they treat it like a business, it'll pay them like a business. But anyway, that's not the segment today. All right, so showing them that you care. That's so important. And so the way to do that is, when tenants complain, you're listening to what they're saying. If you have a tenant that's complaining about the same thing. So let me just give an example. I had a tenant. She kept complaining. She kept complaining about the same thing. She kept saying that her kitchen sink was backing up, that the garbage disposal was backing up. And almost every week, this kitchen sink overflowed. Now, she was on the top floor in this apartment building. And every time that sink overflowed, it created damage to the tenant below her. All right. And so one time it got so bad, it went down 2 levels. So she's on the 3rd floor. It went down to the 1st floor. All right. So that meant that I was responsible for making sure that I completed repairs, not just in her apartment, but the apartment under her, as well as the tenant's apartment on the 1st floor. All right. And so I questioned, well, if I've paid somebody to go in to take care of the repairs, why am I still having this same issue? So remember in my introduction, I told you that I'm also a housing inspector. So when I hear those type of things, because I value my tenants, the one thing that I will do is I will go to the property personally, all right, to see what's going on, because I actually care. I actually care about my tenants. I actually care about the tenants that I manage, right? And so I went to the property, and the contractor, the maintenance team, or whoever went, they probably stretched the truth a little bit to say that the problem was taken care of when it really wasn't. So I immediately made a call while being inside the unit, because I was able to see that, okay, they didn't replace this garbage disposal. All right. So that's the most important thing when it comes to listening. Take time to listen, value the tenants, and show that you care as a landlord. And again, tenants, if you have a landlord that don't respect you, report it, do what you have to do, move on, but just be professional, respect them, because I promise that it doesn't make sense to take it to the streets. I know some people like to get violent. People become irate and disrespectful. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. Don't engage. All right. Don't initiate it, and don't accept it. All right. So number 2, understand. All right. You want to understand that tenant's point of view. All right. Even if I have some friends, I have some colleagues, they've never lived in rental property. They've never lived in an apartment. They've always lived in a home, right? And some of my colleagues, they come from a well-off family. And so they can't necessarily relate or understand to tenants who are in low-income housing, right? So, but at the end of the day, at least show that you are you're trying to understand. At least understand the tenant's complaint, because tenants will complain when things are not right. Now, if everything was going perfectly, if everything was fine, tenants wouldn't have a reason to complain, right? I know some of you on here tenants. Am I right? Let me know if I'm right or wrong. But at the end of the day, if things are going right, you don't have a reason to complain. Maybe that's just me. So have a heart. Try to understand, at least seek to understand. You may not completely understand. And let me just speak to the tenants on this, because tenants sometimes don't understand what landlords or housing providers go through. But when you have a landlord that's trying to work things out with you, understand that things are going to happen in the apartment, in the rental property. But if you do have a landlord that is at least attempting to make repairs, and they have a track record of sending people there, if they are not able to complete the repairs themselves, if they have a history of showing up to make sure that the repairs are taken care of, whether it's a maintenance person or a contractor, just try to understand that they're doing their best. All right. So for me, having hundreds of tenants that I was responsible for managing, it was sometimes a challenge trying to satisfy everybody at the same exact moment, because everything is a priority for all 200 of my tenants, right? So understand that sometimes landlords do have a priority, especially if they have multiple buildings or multiple rental properties, such as myself, because sometimes it just takes time. But it's always good when landlords and housing providers have a team that can get stuff done. Okay. My third point is this: affirm and remind your tenants that you are on their side. There's nothing worse than having a landlord and you feel like your landlord is working against you instead of working with you. So remember, I shared the story how I witnessed firsthand the landlord who told the tenant that their complaint of mold was dirt and it was the tenant's responsibility. That wasn't good. That wasn't good. And I'm sure that did not make that tenant feel good. All right. So it's a partnership. At the end of the day, working together is a whole lot better. I promise you that working together is a whole lot better. And so in this situation, This landlord didn't make the repairs. There's some health issues. There's some environmental hazard issues, some safety issues going on at this rental property. And tenants do have a right. Tenants have a right to sue landlords when they're not making repairs, just as landlords have an opportunity or right to sue tenants for lease violations and for non-payment of rent. Well, in many cases, landlords are now in a hot seat. Last week, I also shared how one landlord was arrested. All right. I believe in April, I will share more of those stories because April is Fair Housing Month. All right. So the whole month of April, I will be sharing stories and information to help those of you who are housing providers, landlords, property managers. Maybe you know someone who is, to avoid big mistakes, because sometimes, although it could be unintentional, sometimes what you don't know can and will hurt you. So it's always in your best interest to know what the law says that you can and cannot do. Being a housing provider or a landlord is so much more than collecting rent at the beginning of the month. All right. So, but I did want to touch on this matter because it's near and dear to my heart because, like I said, I do know this landlord. And for whatever reason, they allowed this situation to happen. It's so heartbreaking because tenants are impacted by it. I'm talking about families. I'm talking about mothers and grandmothers and aunties. You know, people, it could be one of my relatives in that situation. Fortunately, it's not, but you know, it's a sad situation to see tenants who feel like they don't have an outlet, they don't have anywhere to go, and they're relying on this landlord to make repairs. Maybe there's a ceiling leaking, and the landlord hasn't taken care of it. I mean, the list could just go on and on and on, right? So I can't touch on the specifics and the exact details of this situation or the matter, but it's unfortunate. And a lot of landlords are severely impacting tenants, and it's not good. It's a sad situation. It's sad, it's embarrassing, and it makes people not want to rent. And so at the end of the day, it's nothing worse than being a landlord and your tenants are putting your name out there to let everybody know that you're a slum landlord, or suing you because you haven't made repairs. Listen, if you're getting money, if it's a business and you're getting paid to do this, just simply do your job as a landlord. I don't know how to say it any other way. As a housing provider, as a housing professional, if you're getting paid money for this tenant, whether it's coming directly from them or the government, just as a landlord, just do your job and make the repairs. And if you need help, now some owners are self-managing properties, and tenants, please know and understand that all owners or all landlords don't have proper education. Some of them have never gone to school for property management. Okay. Fortunately for me, I've been doing this for so long. I've gone to school. I actually teach property management. So I'm required to stay updated with laws and the changes that impact how I do business and how I manage property. All right. But all owners don't have that knowledge. They don't have that education. But I do strongly recommend that even if someone is self-managing their own property, to find out what the law says. Stay on top of the law, okay? Stay on top of the law. Stay on top of what you're supposed to do, because tenants do have rights. And when tenant rights are violated, tenants can sue landlords. So I promise you, it's a whole lot cheaper to just make repairs versus doing nothing, and a tenant sues you for thousands of dollars. All right. So those are my tips for today. That's the information that I wanted to share. I do hope that this was helpful. And please share this information with others because, like I said, the month of April is Fair Housing Month. We've been in and actually, we're still under the eviction moratorium. And I know that a lot of landlords and housing providers have broken a lot of laws. And so I'm going to be covering this information because I don't want tenants to think that landlords can just do anything and get away with it. All right. So when the courts are open, if the courts are not open in your jurisdiction, if you are a tenant and if your rights have been violated by your landlord, yes, you can definitely sue your landlord. And landlords can also sue tenants. All right. So my job my goal, my mission is to bridge the gap, to bring awareness to both sides of the aisles, to landlords as well as tenants. And this is what I do each and every Monday, right here on my Facebook page, my YouTube channel. And again, if you are not following me on YouTube, please do that. Please like my Facebook page. This is my information here for Facebook as well as for YouTube. And again, if you have questions, if you have comments, feel free to drop it in the comment section. If you find that there's a question that you have, and if I'm not doing a live, just go ahead and inbox me, and I'll usually respond within 24 hours. So thank you so much. My time is up. I thank you for yours, and I do hope that you can join me